This is a podcast about our lived experience, which unfortunately includes infant death and subsequent mental health struggles. Please take good care of yourself and only listen if this content feels safe for you right now. We'll still be here when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Judith.
And I'm Alina. We are internet friends turned real-life friends who both experienced the tragic loss of our sons to sudden infant death syndrome in winter of 2021.
In the year after Aiden died, my husband and I both became unemployed. My parents divorced, and we had to move 5 times for various reasons.
And as for me, just a few weeks before my son Quinn died, my then husband had come out to me as a transgender woman and we're subsequently divorcing.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot.
But as long as we're living, we will love our sons deeply and work to make sure that we live a life that makes them proud.
Welcome to As Long As I'm Living podcast.
We're so glad you're here.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. It is Saturday, May 14th as I record this and as I'm about to release this. This is a bonus episode. I am putting up the recording of an Instagram Live that Judith and I did yesterday, talking about the brand new hot off the presses SIDS research that was released, where they found a link between a biomarker called BChE, Butyrylcholinesterase, and SIDS. So the recording that I'm going to play for you for the rest of this bonus episode is just a completely unedited, raw recording of our thoughts and feelings on this research. We feel complicated feelings about it. Obviously, it's good news. It also feels a little bit bittersweet, which you'll hear us talk about. Before I send you off into the episode, though, I do just want to talk a little bit more in detail about what Dr. Goldstein and the Roberts program have to say. Those of you who listen to our podcast know we have a relationship with Dr. Rick Goldstein, who is the director of the Roberts program at Boston Children's Hospital, which is researching sudden unexplained infant and childhood deaths. And so both Quinn and Aiden are enrolled in the Roberts program. And so they are doing tons of research in this arena as well. So essentially, we reached out to them for comment, and we talk about this later in the episode, but they got back to us, and they definitely view the paper as interesting and a solid contribution. They're excited about the research, and it supports some of their hypotheses, studying arousal from sleep in relation to SIDS. You'll hear in the episode that we have with Dr. Goldstein, he talks about serotonin levels and that using that as a biomarker for increased SIDS risk. There's just a lot of really interesting research out there that is not just this brand new paper, but obviously this paper is exciting. So I've rambled quite enough. I will link Dr. Goldstein's episodes in the description. I will also link the Instagram Live if you would rather watch us have this conversation. You're welcome to do that. But if you just want to listen, here you go.
Hello?
Oh my goodness, we did it. Look at us go. We're on Instagram Live.
First live. Hold on, can I do it sideways? Is that okay? No, that's annoying.
That is definitely not okay. You look sideways.
Okay, then I have to hold it with my hands because it's charging. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, there's nobody here, which it is 3:25 p.m. We're here because we want to do a quick little explanation of our thoughts on the new study that came out recently about SIDS. There's a new biomarker that they found. And so many of you have sent it to us, which I think is the sweetest because it makes me feel like you guys care. Hi, Judith. We're ridiculous. Hello. Okay, so I will summarize the study first because I think that is a good place to start. What do you think?
I have a question. What is a biomarker?
That's a great question. Let me Google it. What is?
Because I was trying to explain it to my mom today, and I was like, it's a gene.
Okay.
Like, I actually don't think it's a gene. It's a chemical, right?
Okay,
It's like a
so
chemical?
a biomarker is a biological molecule found in blood, other bodily fluids, or tissues that is a sign of a normal or abnormal process. So examples of
Is it possible to link?
Examples would be.
Is it possible to link the article?
We will definitely link the article when we save and share this live for the future. So for anybody who's just joining, we are talking about the new study that came out the last couple of days in relation to SIDS. They found a biomarker that is correlated with an increased risk of SIDS. So we feel like we kind of have an obligation to respond to it because it obviously is, SIDS research is important to us. So the biomarker that they found is called, get ready for me to try to pronounce this really long word, Butyrylcholinesterase.
I'm trying to read it also, but I think, do you think they just go by BChE?
Yes.
Or are we supposed to pronounce that?
BChE is the short name for sure. And essentially, this is something that they can, when you have a newborn at the hospital, they do like a heel prick and they test the baby for like various metabolic conditions. And this is actually one of the biomarkers that they can kind of test for in that little blood sample. And this study by Harrington, Hafid and Waters, has basically found that there's a correlation between this particular biomarker and SIDS, increased SIDS risk. So, Judith, what does that mean?
What does that mean? I think it means that I think that means that like this is the first step to being able to one day hopefully test all babies to see if maybe they have a higher enzyme count for the BChE. And if they do, maybe there's something that one day research will be able to show to try and prevent SIDS. Either, or maybe not prevent it, but maybe there are ways to like further mitigate risk. Like if you know that you have this BChE enzyme, maybe that means that you won't co-sleep if that's something you were considering.
Right.
But I know that I'm sure the medical community is really cautious to really do anything with it because we don't know what you're going to just like make parents live in fear.
Right.
If their kid does have it, there's not necessarily that your child is going to die. They're just like at an increased risk to die. So then every parent that gets a positive BChE test is just going to go home and like live in constant fear and paranoia. Right. So it's like tough.
Yeah. I mean, when we had our conversation with Dr. Goldstein, which I'll also try to remember to link when we save this and post it. One of the things he said is that there's this kind of scary phase in science where you learn enough information about a disease to predict when it might strike, but you don't know enough to prevent it. And that's a really scary place to be. And that kind of feels like that's kind of what this study feels like to me. Like, I know I personally feel like I wouldn't want to test a baby for this at this point, even though it is something that would predict a higher risk. Like, to me, if there's nothing I can do about it, it doesn't really feel good to know. Do you agree?
I would want to know.
Yeah.
I would want to know, but I also know that when my daughter, we did that heart test to see if she had, one of the other reasons why SIDS happens is if you have like a prolonged QT, which I don't even know what it means, but it means something about the cardiac rhythm. It's like a heart thing. And so we did test for that with my daughter in the hospital, and the first test result came back abnormal, and it showed that she did have a long QT. And I went into like
freaked out. You were
freaked out. I mean, like completely panicked. And they actually do have a way to help prolong QT, so that's a totally different situation. But I can imagine as a parent getting that news in the hospital that your child is at an increased risk for SIDS. Like, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I remember asking the doctor, I was like, is my baby going to die in the next 10 days? Because that's when our follow-up appointment was. So I guess I hear what you're saying. Like, it didn't really help to know. But I do think that once I got reassurance from the pediatrician saying, like, you know, let me give you more context into this result, it actually was helpful, and I'd rather know than not know. And so I think if there's a way to give parents this information, just a lot of context as to like how it plays into their child's life and what they can do to further mitigate risk, maybe it would be helpful.
Right.
But let's talk for a minute about how you feel getting the news that they've found a marker for babies with SIDS? Like, how did it feel to read this news?
You know, the very first time I saw the article, I think actually the first I saw of it was somebody had sent it to us on our Instagram. And I opened it and closed it because it didn't, right in that minute, it just didn't feel like something I wanted to read. It felt like overwhelming. It felt, you know, there are many reasons why SIDS happens. It seems as though this is maybe just one of them. And so, you know, let's say they find out that Quinn did have this and this is why he died. I don't really know that this gives me any comfort or anything like that. And let's say this isn't why he died. Well, it, you know, definitely doesn't bring me comfort in that case. So I guess I would say I found it a little triggering that it's kind of everywhere right now. I feel like there's a lot of excitement, particularly in infant loss communities, which I understand, but to me, it doesn't really feel exciting because, like I said, what we were talking about before, like, it doesn't actually prevent it. And it's certainly not going to bring Quinn back.
I think for me also, I definitely seen it celebrated, like people who aren't in the SIDS community, I see are posting it on Facebook. I just think a lot of people are excited about it, and like I can understand why they're excited about it because it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel so good.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't feel so good, and it's hard to see people who aren't affected by SIDS celebrating it because it's like, okay, well, we know why some people get Parkinson's or some people get cancer or some people, and like, it's not good news. I mean, maybe it is. I just think like, okay, let me just make a different comparison for a second. We now can treat AIDS. I think anybody who lost a partner or a dear friend to AIDS, it's like, but it doesn't bring them back.
Yeah.
And even though we can treat it now, I'm so glad that like it's no longer a death sentence, and I'm so glad that future children may not have to, you know, worry about SIDS. My baby isn't coming back, so that doesn't feel so good.
Yeah, it's like,
you know, it doesn't fix my problem.
It feels like a hollow victory almost, which is interesting because both of us, you and I both, have enrolled in a program called the Roberts Program at Boston Children's Hospital with the goal of hopefully our son's deaths, you know, being part of the reason that SIDS doesn't happen to future babies. And that feels very meaningful to me. But so this particular study, just to clarify, was out of a totally different research lab and is unaffiliated with the Roberts Program. And should I talk about what the Roberts Program said as well?
No, you can.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So we reached out to the Roberts Program like for comment, which felt like a journalist. We're like, what do you have to say about this?
Somebody did.
And so essentially, you know, Dr. Goldstein in the episode he did with us, he talked about there are some other biomarkers that they're looking into for increased SIDS risk. One of them being either high or low levels of serotonin in the brain stem. So that's another biomarker that they're looking into for SIDS. So he basically said, you know, the Roberts Program's position is that this is like fantastic research. They're super excited about it. There are other labs all over the country and probably all over the world looking at all these different biomarkers. And they're also really, they feel similarly to the way we do, which is that there is this gray area where you learn what it is before you can actually do anything about it. And I distinctly remember when I enrolled in the Roberts Program, they told us like they would only counsel us, they would only let us know from our genetic results, like if something was actionable. And to me, this feels like unactionable, and thus I kind of wouldn't want to know. And I just think there's like, you have to be careful, especially for them as like physicians and as scientists, like you have to be careful about like just kind of dumping research results into the internet, you know, without context, which is, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of context about it out there. So.
Yeah. I think it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it is kind of hard.
I'm like jealous of future generations.
Me too. I am too. I am too. I do think they'll eventually be able to find all the things for SIDS eventually, maybe. It does seem like it's a combination of many, 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 many different things, though, like so many different factors.
I'd like to also, we're going to post this live when it's done, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to hear, other people who've been affected by SIDS. Yeah. How do you feel about it? Are, Alina and I the only ones who are I feel
lukewarm. Lukewarm.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel good for me, but I guess it's good for science.
Yeah.
Maybe underwhelmed is a good way to put it. I just feel underwhelmed by this news that should make me feel excited, and I'm just kind of
yeah,
that's good for someone else.
Yeah,
I'm happy for them.
Definitely some complications.
So I'd love to hear of other people. Maybe someone else is bigger than us, and they're able to see the bigger picture, and we're really zoomed in on our own children, and they're you guys are missing the whole point. If that's the case, please tune in and tell us, because I'd love to hear that other people are excited about this.
All right, so those are our thoughts. Anything else before we hop off?
No, we'll see you guys Monday with our Back to Work series, part 1.
We have 2 episodes coming out for you guys next week, both about returning to work. They are both interviews, and we are super excited about them. So, all right, we will stop there.
We'll see you guys soon.
Judith, make sure you save the live when you exit, okay?
How do I do that?
I don't know. There's a button. You'll find it. You're
don't count on that.
This is so much pressure.
Don't count on that. Is it going to tell me? Okay. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.
To all of our wonderful new friends, we want to hear from you. Email us at aslongasimlivingpodcast@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at aslongasimlivingpodcast. We'll get back to you as soon as our grieving brains allow. Yay!